I'm Caleb Ray, and my experiment is exactly what will happen. The reason for choosing this project is to know if I can make an object float that would normally sink. The density of an object depends on how tightly packed molecules are. If you have a metal spoon and a plastic spoon, the metal one would sink, but the plastic would float. This is because it is more dense due to its molecules being more tightly packed. The plastic spoon would float because its molecules aren't as tightly. Will changing the density allow the object that is more dense to float? My purpose is to try and change the density of liquids to make objects float. My hypothesis is that in regular water an egg will sink, but in salt water it will float. My plan is to also try a marble and a rubbery object. I believe the marble will sink in regular water and float in salt water. Since the marble is smaller, I would think it will take more salt to make the marble float. My prediction is the rubbery object will float in regular water and salt water. These are my supplies I used. My materials I used were egg, salt, water, clear drinking glasses, marble, spoon, rubbery object, and an iPad for taking pictures. My procedure was step 1. Arrange 3 glasses, pour water until they are about 3/4 full. Place the objects in the glass of water and record your observations. Watch closely to see if it sinks or floats. Once you have recorded those results, fill the glasses again with water. Keep adding 1 teaspoon of salt at a time until the object floats. Some objects may be too dense to float. These are my this is my data, and this is the result, and this is all of it together. My conclusion was my hypothesis was partially correct. The egg did in fact float in salt water, but the marble didn't. It took 4 teaspoons of salt to make an egg float. The salt water never did affect the rubbery object. Even when 12 teaspoons of salt were added to the water, the marble still didn't float. The result was the same with the penny. It sank to the bottom and salt didn't seem to affect it. I learned that the salt does have an effect on the water. If the density of an object is less than the density of a liquid, then the object will float. If the density of the object is greater than the density of the liquid, it will sink. Not only did the salt change the density of the water, but it also helped change the color to a milky look. I believe that chemicals used in tap water could have an effect on the results. Maybe with filtered water and salt, a marble may have been more buoyant. Another factor could have been what region we live in. Altitude can affect many things. The air pressure, as well as the temperature of the way water, may also contribute to the results. This is the penny in the water with 0 teaspoons of salt. This is with 6 teaspoons of salt, and with 12 it still didn't float. My experiment was to see how many teaspoons of salt it would take to make objects sink or float. I learned about the density and buoyancy of an object and how salt water would affect it. According to my results, an object would float in the ocean because the salt water would make it more buoyant. If the same object was placed in the Mississippi River, it wouldn't float as well. This is because the Mississippi has very little salt water. This is what I did with my eggs. So this is with 0 water or 0 teaspoons. It sinks. With 4 teaspoons of salt, it floated to the top.